Ladies and gents, this is the moment you've waited for. You've been searching in the dark, your sweat soaking through the floor. And buried in your bones, there's an ache that you can't ignore. Taking your breath, stealing your mind, and all that was real is left behind. So tell me, do you wanna go where it's coming in all the golden lights, where the runaways are running the night? This is the greatest show. We light it up, we won't come down, and the sun can't stop us now. Watching it come down, it's taking over you.
Hi, everybody, and welcome into the NHL Return to Play preview. I'm Kathryn Tappen. I'm happy to be with you and excited about what's to come in the NHL. Today, we're going to be breaking down everything you need to know about the Eastern Conference. But first, how is this all going to work? The top 12 teams in each conference, based on points percentage, will all have a chance to compete for the Stanley Cup. The Eastern Conference will be playing in Toronto, and the Western Conference will be playing in Edmonton. In each conference, the top 4 teams automatically made the playoffs and will play each other once apiece in a round robin to determine seeding. The round robin games will be played with regular season overtime and shootout rules, with ties in the final standings broken by regular season points percentage. Seeds 5 through 12 in each conference will meet in a best-of-5 series with a chance to advance to the first round of the Stanley Cup Playoffs. Playoff rules apply for these qualifying round games, and it all begins on August 1st. Let's kick things off with the number 1 seed in the East, the Boston Bruins.
Fought off, they score! Charlie Coyle! Wow. Grizzly walks in, shoots, and scores! Marchand to Pasternak, he scores! Marchand bats it in! Bergeron's wrist shot scores! Shot taken, they score!
A rocket by Pasternak.
Skinner the redirection, wow, save by Rez! Closing in on 700 goals. Halak denies him! A desperate dive!
Félicitations. Congratulations.
Pasternak through the legs. He scores! Over to Marchand. To Pasternak. It's a 4-goal game.
The Boston Bruins with an absolutely dominating regular season. Bruins fans hoping that they can get back to the Stanley Cup final and ultimately win the cup as we welcome in Keith Jones and Brian Burke to further the conversation on Boston. And Burke, I mean, what do the Bruins need to do to hold on to that number 1 seed in the playoffs?
Not a darn thing in my mind. They were the best team in the league through the pause. They were on a great run right before the pause. They've got good special teams. They got veteran leadership. They got a quality coach. They got quality goaltending. I was trying to find a weakness last night I could talk about, and I can't find one. My only beef if I play for the Boston Bruins is that these games will affect the seeding. I think their regular season should have stood for itself, and they should have kept their top seed, but that's okay. They're going to be just fine. Jonesy?
Yeah, if there's a team that can handle that, Berkey, it is the Boston Bruins. They seem to take whatever's in front of them and handle it quite easily based upon a lot of the things that you just mentioned. Great leadership throughout the organization, very good coaching staff, and obviously great leaders in their locker room. Not just in the locker room saying what needs to be said, but on the ice playing the game the way it needs to be played. And they can play it any way against any opponent, led by Patrice Bergeron and Zdeno Chara on the back end. Add in Brad Marchand in the mix there, and you've got a heck of a hockey club that can beat you in a lot of different ways. You want to play physically, they have enough guys that have enough brawn in that locker room that can knock you around if need be. You're not going to chase them out of a playoff series. And they've got the scoring ability with David Pasternak to match up with any team in the NHL. They were the best. I expect them to be right up there again, and they are a team that deals with adversity in a great way.
And of course, Jonesy, a lot of that leadership as well starts from their head coach, Bruce Cassidy. I mean, Berkey, it's been amazing to watch his evolution coaching this Bruins team and how he's able to get them prepared. What does he need to do in this situation for the Stanley Cup playoffs to get his team ready to go?
Well, I think that the benefit there is in Boston, people accept their roles, and they've got legitimate top six forwards. Then they've got people that accept the role of being on the third or fourth line. And you buy in Boston. You're not asked politely. You buy in or they'll find someone else who will. One of the great things about their team is that players will accept whatever role they're given and will play as hard as they can in that role. It's not putting a square peg in a round hole. It's putting a square peg in a square hole and making it work. So I think he's got the luxury of having depth and having guys that buy in.
Championship pedigree in Boston, there's no question about that. Bruins fans hoping this is their year to win the Stanley Cup. All right, when we return on NHL Return to Play preview, we'll discuss the Tampa Bay Lightning. Can they avoid a similar fate as they had last year in the Stanley Cup playoffs? We'll talk all about it coming up next. Welcome back, everybody, to the NHL Return to Play preview. We continue with the number 2 seed in the East, the Tampa Bay Lightning.
He got his 400th goal. And Stamkos will get that 400th assist. Batted it out of the air, it is! His 800th point. Save Bennington. Rebounds off. Let's go! Back to Hedman and drive score! Kucherov fires it home.
200 for Nikita Kucherov.
What a shot by Anthony Cirelli. Not free. Barkov shoots. Save Vasilevsky. What a beautiful play by Killorn. Point. Shoots. Scores! Kucherov it alone. And the Lightning have set a new club record with their 11th consecutive win.
We're joined by Brian Burke and Keith Jones to talk about the Tampa Bay Lightning, a team that proved last year it doesn't matter what you do in the regular season, as it is a new year in the playoffs. And Jonesy, I mean, how does this Lightning team avoid the fate that they had last year and try to make a deep run for the Stanley Cup this season?
Those tough lessons should serve them well, Kathryn. It was a team with great expectations last year based upon how terrific they were during the regular season. The good news for Tampa this year is they kind of bumped along early this season. It looked like they had been rattled by what happened last year against the Columbus Blue Jackets, and then they really found their way. They snuck up on the opposition. They continued to find ways to win hockey games, whether it was playing physically when necessary or using their high-powered talent that they have in that locker room. They've got players that are great at different positions, including goaltending. And Andrei Vasilevsky, one of the best in the National Hockey League. Up front, Nikita Kucherov, one of the best in the game. And on the back end, Victor Hedman, one of the best defensemen in the game. So they're loaded. They should be well prepared, and some of those hard lessons should serve them well when the playoffs roll around.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would say it's Tampa Bay, to me, is the best group of players in this tournament, but not necessarily the best team. What happened last spring will dictate that their report card will be based upon hockey in the next 6 weeks, not on anything they did in the regular season. But they are deep, and I love how aggressive they were at the trade deadline, bringing in Barclay Goodrow, bringing in Blake Coleman, signing Zach Bogosian. They added depth, they added size, they added foot speed to an already impressive group, and now they can kind of play any way you want, a la Boston. I really like this group, but again, their pass-fail is playoffs. It's that simple.
The round-robin round is so interesting, Berkey, when you think about the Tampa Bay Lightning. I mean, which matchup are you most looking forward to watching them play against?
Well, I'll tell you what, doing my research last night, I think Philadelphia had a winning record against Boston, had a winning record against Washington, but went 0-2 against Tampa. So the wild card team of these four teams is Philly, and I don't think anyone really wants to play them because all their success came late, and they are going to be a handful for anyone. But I bet you that one I'm looking forward to watching when Tampa plays Philadelphia.
And ironically, Berkey, that was the matchup that was supposed to happen just prior to things being shut down. The Flyers were in Tampa getting ready to match up a measuring stick game for Philadelphia against a Lightning team that was really heating up at the same time. two of the best teams at that time of the season. So I think it will be a great matchup to watch. I think Tampa also is looking forward to going up against the Boston Bruins, a team that has been a measuring stick for them for the last 5-6 years. Both teams have been excellent, and I think Tampa is in a position right now. They're not shying away from everybody. They know they're going to have to go through the best to get to the ultimate goal, winning the Stanley Cup at the end of this.
All right, well, you guys mentioned it. The Philadelphia Flyers coming up next. We'll break down what Claude Giroux needs to do to get his Flyers team right back where they were when the season was put on hold, and Alex Ovechkin and the Washington Capitals. We'll talk about both those two teams on NHL Return to Play Preview returns. Welcome back, everybody, to the NHL Return to Play Preview, and some great conversations so far as we continue with the number 3 seed in the East, the Washington Capitals.
The question, the Washington Capitals.
All the elements are there for this team to have success again.
The Caps are going to be a team that are on a mission. I think it's appropriate for them to start against last year's Stanley Cup champion.
Chance on the left side, they score! Jacob Brunner downs the champs. Toshi hopped by Clifton, he scores!
Top 5 forwards are as good as any top 5 in the entire National Hockey League, and it all starts with the grade 8.
Keep our eye on Ovi this year. 42 goals against the 700s. I mean, that'd be nuts.
He scores! His spectacular history-making continues.
And we're joined once again by Brian Burke and Keith Jones. Alex Ovechkin and the Capitals, a tremendously strong season this year, especially for the captain, Alex Ovechkin. I mean, Berkey, when you take a look at this round-robin series, you see the Capitals making a run at a higher seed.
Yeah, I do. And I'll tell you what I like best about Washington is they had a great team and a great season, but they were active at the deadline as well. They brought in Brendan Dillon, and Eastern Conference fans probably don't know this player that well, but he's a really good player. He's been in San Jose for years. He's a legit top 4 defenseman with some bite. They brought him in, and they added Ilya Kovalchuk, who's an X factor for me. Makes your power play units more dangerous and more deep. So I think they've got a real good team. No weaknesses. They got a Norris candidate defenseman in John Carlson. But what they did at the deadline was give themselves a better chance to win.
And they're a team that you would love, Berkey. They're big, they're tough, they can beat you up physically. They've got a lot of different players that can do that, not just Tom Wilson. The other guys seem to follow suit, and Brendan Dillon's a great example of a player that can play the game very physically as well. So the Capitals also check all the boxes as we go through these teams, starting to come to the realization this is going to be a really difficult Stanley Cup to win, and every game in that round robin is going to be a very difficult challenge for those 4 teams in the Eastern Conference, including the Flyers. So it's making for a great conversation right now, but on the ice, I can't wait to watch the product. And the Capitals are a team that everybody is fearful of based upon what they did a couple of seasons ago and how much talent they have, including the goal scoring of Alexander Ovechkin and the passing of Nicholas Backstrom.
I hate when they play long pants hockey, big boy hockey. I hate that.
I bet you do.
We'll see what Alex Ovechkin and company can do. It was fun watching Ovi during the regular season. No question about that. We'll see how well he's ready to go for the playoffs. Probably be in pretty good shape, as we've seen throughout the downtime with Alex Ovechkin and what he's been posting on his social media platforms. Jones, you mentioned the Flyers. Let's take a look at that number 4 seed in the East.
Start of a new season. Let's have a good one here. Good luck, buddy.
Men in orange. Men in orange. You can't win them all if you don't win the first one. That's it, boys.
Expectations are high. We should be really excited as a group.
Here's Hughes giving it across. Oh, and what a save! Made by Hart! My goodness! Here's connecting. He scores! Bill Myers slipping one. Score! Kicks it out of his skates around. Got it in front. Scores! Flyers have won the Global Series.
There, of course, is Oscar Lindblom getting a huge ovation. It is Oscar Strong.
There are no more excuses. We're getting an opportunity to go out there and prove that we're a good team. You can say you want to win. At the end of the day, you have to show it.
Quite an exciting year for the Flyers and their fan base and the success they had this season. And Alain Vigneault really made his impact on this team, Jonesy, early on. You're around this team all the time. I mean, what do they need to do to make a run in the Stanley Cup playoffs?
Just pick up where they left off. They're a very deep team. They're a balanced team, and they've got a great head coach who you just mentioned, and Alain Vigneault. They seem to push all the right buttons during the regular season. Kevin Hayes was a really nice addition. He's brought an attitude. He's a fun guy to be around. He's loosened up the locker room, and he's also allowed players like Sean Couturier to take his game to the next level. Couturier's been their best player all season long, and that's opened up a lot of doors for other players to step in and contribute offensively. Strong up the middle, very good on the blue line now with Ivan Provorov having a terrific season. Matt Niskanen, very underrated addition in the offseason, has really solidified their blue line. And Carter Hart has looked like he's the guy that was being advertised before he arrived. Mature beyond his years with a very good backup in Brian Elliott that has pushed him as well. So the goaltending issue seems to be solved in Philadelphia, and that's not great news for the rest of the league.
I think Alain Vigneault has done a remarkable job with this group, but I think 2 off-season acquisitions, a lot of eyebrows were raised when they signed Kevin Hayes, and he's delivered on that. Now, they may hate that contract in a couple of years, but he's delivered on that. He does lighten up the room. I've had him with Team USA. He's big. He's got a good sense of humor, and they're a very different team with him in the lineup. Matt Niskanen is the reason Ivan Provorov has turned into the player that he has, in my opinion. I think this kid was destined for stardom, but I think Matt Niskanen has given him a good offside shot, a right shot presence that's always reliable, stays home. He's predictable, and it allows this young Russian to gamble a little bit more. They have no holes. Teams are afraid of the Flyers right now. They were 9-1 in their last 10 games, and teams are nervous about playing the Philadelphia Flyers.
And that is good news for Flyers fans, as we know how that city goes, and they are pumped for their run coming up for the Philadelphia Flyers. We've got more to get to. When we come back, we'll discuss the Eastern qualifying rounds when NHL Return to Play preview returns. Hey everybody, welcome back to the NHL Return to Play preview. And we've had some great discussions so far, but now it's time to shift our focus to a truly unique part of this plan, the best of 5 qualifiers. And we start with the number 5 seed in the East, the Pittsburgh Penguins, against number 12, the Montreal Canadiens.
The resilience of this team.
Fought off by Jarry, battled it away.
Jarry, his 3rd NHL shutout.
He has been like Velcro, swallowing pucks.
There's a big save right there by Jarry.
Incredible streak for Tristan Jarry, the new Penguin record. Oh, this guy's unbelievable.
Turn out the lights, because the Penguins have won this game in overtime. And what a game this was.
Put the turkey on the table. The Pittsburgh Penguins have won this hockey game.
Malkin over the line. He scores! 4-0-0 for Gino.
Boom! Let's go. Domi up for the puck, scores!
That stings. Second effort, he scores.
Weber busting right in. He takes it all the way around. Wraparound try and he scores. What a play by Shea Weber.
Suzuki came in the back door and put it top shelf, short side.
Armia has a step. Armia in, shooting. He scored.
All right, so the Pittsburgh Penguins, Montreal Canadiens, as Brian Burke and Keith Jones are with me once again. And Berkey, who do you like out of this matchup?
Well, I like Pittsburgh. I don't think there's much doubt about the result here. The only difference might be Carey Price can steal you a game or two in a best of 5, but Mark Bergevin traded Scandella, traded Nate Thompson, traded Nick Cousins, traded Ilya Kovalchuk. All good moves if you're going to miss. Then the league steps in and hands them a lifeline. They are too shorthanded, in my opinion, with this group to beat a very talented Pittsburgh squad, and it's not Bergie's fault. And the default prize is 1 in 8 chance of getting that first overall pick.
Yeah, that's kind of nice, isn't it? When you think about it from Montreal's perspective, I agree absolutely. They weren't expecting to have to get ready for a playoff series against the Pittsburgh Penguins. I don't think the Penguins, about midway through the season, were thinking they'd be a team that would be in this qualifying round. They were off to a great start, even with a lot of injuries. They're healthy now. Their star players played extremely well in the absence of other star players during the regular season. And then they kind of hit a wall right before the break and started to play poorly. And I think some of the extended minutes on some of their star players was the reason that they stopped performing as well. So glad to see everyone is back. I think they're extremely dangerous. I think they're not just going to win the qualifying round. I would not be shocked if they won the Stanley Cup. So the Pittsburgh Penguins, with the return of Jake Gensel, the unexpected return, should be in a good position to make some real noise, and it should be a fun team to watch as things start to round into form.
Yeah, I also think it'll be fun to watch, as Berkey mentioned, Carey Price, a huge X factor. Can he carry his team throughout the 5-game series? We'll have to wait and see, but he is always fun to watch in intense moments. All right, coming up next, the number 6 Carolina Hurricanes against number 11 New York Rangers.
And here he comes, number 90, the emergency goaltender, David Ayres. Keep the puck, David. You've just got a National Hockey League victory. What a moment.
Carolina showing the speed. David going to the doorstep. He scores.
Catch with Hamilton. Cross ice it goes. Teravainen. Hamilton shot.
Stops in a dive. Lacrosse move. What a goal! Andre Svechnikov.
Panarin. Up the middle. Zibanejad.
He goes to the net. He scores! He scores! The Rangers win! Mika Zibanejad with 5 goals!
I am excited to welcome John Davidson back.
Dreams do come true.
With the second pick, Kako.
Kako scores!
And the break in. Panarin to the net.
Scores!
He moves in on Shesterkin. Saves Shesterkin.
Oh, and he would not go. What a remarkable stop on Carlson. Wow.
Here's a chance for Kreider. He scores! Tony DeAngelo. It's a power play goal.
The Hurricanes and Rangers is a really exciting matchup based on the regular season meetings. And I mean, Berkey, it looks like the Carolina Hurricanes on paper and also are the higher seed. But when you look at the numbers in the regular season, the Rangers owned Carolina.
Well, the scores were deceptive. They won all 4 games, but they got outshot badly in most of them. The goaltending was the difference. But fortunately for the Rangers, goaltending will continue to be the difference. I like Carolina's aggressiveness at the deadline. They brought in Brady Shea. They brought in Sami Vatanen because they thought Dougie Hamilton would still be hurt. And now you get Dougie Hamilton back, who's having a Norris-level season. He's having a great year. So they brought 3 guys in at the deadline for depth. I still don't think they're good enough to beat the Rangers. And I say this will be a 4-game series.
The Rangers are a different team, aren't they, Berkey? You look at them at the start of the year, expectations were low, and boy, have they turned things around. And Artemi Panarin has had an MVP-like season for the New York Rangers. He has lived up to the billing. He's lived up to the contract, which is not an easy thing to do. It's a gigantic weight that a lot of players have not handled well when they've went to the Big Apple, but Panarin has, without question, taken it to an all new level in his career, and that's great news for Ranger fans. Mika Zibanejad, I think, is their best player. I think he's their most important player. I think so much of their game plan runs through him, both defensively and at the offensive end of the ice. And having Chris Kreider back healthy certainly makes the Rangers look like a much different team than they were just prior to things shutting down. So I look forward to watching this Rangers team loaded on the back end with young star, potentially talented players that have shown a lot early on, including Adam Fox. And they've got all kinds of options in goal. So the Rangers do look like the team, to me, that's going to move past, and a big reason why I think Rod Brind'Amour was so upset that they were going to end up playing this New York Rangers team in the qualifying round.
And he'll have to prepare, as you mentioned, Jonesy, for a number of options in goal for the New York Rangers. I mean, let's focus on that decision that Coach Quinn has to make, because you've got the veteran Henrik Lundqvist, the beloved franchise goaltender, but you have the two rising superstars, starting with Shesterkin and Georgiev as well. So who do you anticipate starting for the New York Rangers?
Well, the 4 games, Hank won 3 of the 4 games and was the difference in the games. But I'm not a sentimentalist when it comes to the playoffs. You've got to put the kid in there. Shesterkin, he's the one that played them so well down the stretch. He's got to get the net. But again, on teams where you've got legit battles for goaltending spots, I think you're going to see very short leashes on these goaltenders. 1 bad goal, timeout. 2nd bad goal, you're out. And I think that's a great option that they could put Hank in if they have to. But I start the kid.
Yeah, I think the Rangers will do that as well. But, boy, you'd have to have a lot of decisions going on, or decision-making meetings trying to figure out exactly what you were going to go with. But I think those meetings took place during the regular season. Shesterkin was their guy. Having Lundqvist take a back seat had to be a very difficult decision for David Quinn. But it was the decision in his mind that Shesterkin was their number 1 option. So I expect him to start, but I agree with Berkey. If he stumbles at all, Lundqvist would be a pretty good option to jump in there and go try to steal a couple wins for his New York Rangers team, which he has done so often in the past.
Yeah, not a bad luxury to have for the New York Rangers. 3 goaltenders in net. That is an exciting series. I'm looking forward to that one. When we return, we'll continue to break down the East, and we'll focus our attention on the Islanders and the Panthers when NHL Return to Play preview continues. Hey, everybody, and welcome back into the NHL Return to Play preview. We've had some great discussions about this Eastern Conference best-of-5 qualifying round. Well, now, how about a rematch from 2016? It's the number 7 New York Islanders against the number 10 Florida Panthers.
Let's go. Round them out. Let's get it. We're about to get it. Get it.
Barzal cutting in, and he scores!
Coliseum tonight. Score! And add that to the win column for the Isles.
Like I never left with no ring rust. Nobody get the job done like the king does. Feel that quick rush running through your veins. It's insane how I keep it going. Yeah, we maintain.
This is where we wanted to be, and we're so happy to join the Florida Panther family.
Gets to the net, the backhander is stuffed. It's Luciano Shooty scores! The Panthers win in a shootout. Ekblad walks inside, he scores! Aaron Ekblad wins it for the Panthers in overtime. The Panthers retired the first ever player number in team history. Weegar takes a shot, save, Achari! It's a hat trick! Noel Achari looking for another hattie. And he got it! Back-to-back hat tricks! Barkov has a step. In on Stalock. Barkov shoots and scores! Here comes Huberdeau walking in. He fires, he scores! Hoovy-dooby-doo!
The Islanders and the Panthers both struggled a bit to find their groove following the All-Star break, but they are loaded with talent. It's a tough series to dissect, Jonesy. I mean, when you look at this one on paper, who would you give the edge to?
Well, both teams have Stanley Cup championship coaches behind the bench. So both coaches have just recently arrived with their new teams. Barry Trotz with the Islanders a little bit longer. They're a very defensive team. They're a very organized team, and they're a team that has played extremely well under Barry Trotz. For the Florida Panthers, they haven't been as great as they appeared that they would be on paper going into the season. A lot of it has to do with the struggles of Sergei Bobrovsky during the regular season. He's playing within a system that he's not accustomed to playing in. Florida plays a wide open game. They want to exchange chances. He's going to have to be Grant Fuhr-like to come up with some wins for the Florida Panthers. He was not, and he is a talented enough goaltender that he can find that groove. He needs to find a way to play on a team that doesn't mind going end to end at both teams exchanging opportunities. So if Bobrovsky plays like he's capable of, the Florida Panthers have a chance, but I think the Islanders are going to win that series. I think they're a much more organized team, and that should pay dividends.
I agree with all that. I look at the Islanders, and they went out and got Jean-Gabriel Pageau. They added Andy Green, so they added a key defensive center and depth on defense. Florida, it's again not their fault, not Dale Talon's fault. They moved Vinny Trocheck, and they're going to miss him in this series. I don't expect a very scintillating series here. I don't think this will be Picasso's. I think you'll see a lot of guys painting barns here, but the Islanders are hard to score on. It's hard to get the puck to the neutral zone. They got Pelech back. They got Clutterbuck back. I mean, they got Boychuk back. They are going to be hard to play against, and I see Florida having a hard time scoring.
Jonesy, how much does the experience and the championships that Joel Quenneville has come into play here? Because if it's one guy who can get his team prepared and pull out anything he can from players, especially in a series like this, a best of 5, I mean, how much does that come into play?
It matters. I think Florida's in a better situation than they've been in the last few seasons because Joel is behind the bench. He has an answer for your questions, and there's players that will have all kinds of questions in that Florida Panthers locker room because they lack playoff experience. So I think it makes a difference. I don't think it's going to be the deciding factor, though. I think that one player that Berkey just mentioned, Adam Pelech, being back for the New York Islanders, is a huge addition to that team. He is an extremely underrated defenseman that can shut down top players, and Florida's top line is one of the best in the game. So Barkov's going to have his hands full against a Islanders team that is very defensive-minded and very capable of shutting you down.
And Florida's offensive guns, Huberdeau and Barkov, they really dried up the last 10, 15 games before the pause. Their special teams stunk. They're going to have to snap out of their funk right away if they're going to have any kind of chance. And the goalie's got to stand on his head. I don't like their odds.
All right, there you have it. Both are going with the Islanders. We've got more to discuss. One more matchup on the way, and it's another intriguing one. Can the Columbus Blue Jackets upend the Toronto Maple Leafs? We've got more to discuss when NHL Return to Play preview continues. Welcome back, everybody, to the NHL Return to Play preview. And there's been a lot to digest as we get set for that August 1st return to play for the NHL. Let's get to the last matchup in the East that we haven't yet discussed. It's the number 8 Toronto Maple Leafs against the number 9 Columbus Blue Jackets.
Your Toronto Maple Leafs.
Driving the net, Marner to goal, score! Oh, baby, what a play by Marner! Backhand in front, Matthews scores! Sheldon Keefe wins his NHL coaching debut.
Couldn't have asked for a better first day.
That scores, Matthews!
In front, Nylander scores! Nylander puts it through his legs and in.
Oh, he's back it up. What a piece of work by Freddie Anderson.
What a goal!
Johnny Toronto scores! Kasperi Kapanen, the overtime winner. And the Maple Leafs win it in overtime.
The first rookie goaltender with 5 shutouts in 8 games played. It's been remarkable. Wow.
Shot gets through, shoots, scores! Snatched by Korpisalo. Here's Werenski, scored! Power play, goal, tie! Off the bench comes Zach Werenski. Moves down low and scores! A shot and a goal! Emil Bemstrom.
So the hometown team, the Toronto Maple Leafs, in this series are going to face off against the Columbus Blue Jackets. Berkey, this is probably one of the more entertaining matchups that we've got on paper, and based on what these two teams did, the star talent they're loaded with, great coaches on both sides. Who do you like in this series?
Well, this is the only series that anyone cares about here in Toronto. So I will say this for Toronto. I talked to five GMs the other day, and I asked them all the same thing. I said, who won the series? They all said Toronto should win, but Torts. And John Tortorella showed the Tampa Bay Lightning how he can get a team ready for a playoff series. What Columbus did this year, losing over 400-man games to star players, too, not like guys like me and Jonesy, grunts. These are star players getting hurt. Seth Jones, that kind of Oliver Bjorkstrand, star players that missed 400-man games, and they're still legitimately in a playoff spot. So what they've done to date is remarkable. As they get healthy, which they are now, except for Josh Anderson, they're going to be a handful for this Toronto team. Now, Toronto's got way better top six forwards. They can score at will. They were one of the leading goal-scoring teams in the league, but only 5 teams gave up fewer goals. This is going to be a really interesting series.
And the disadvantage for the Leafs, Berkey, is they're going to be so heavily favored based upon, on paper, how much better they should be than the Columbus Blue Jackets. Expectations will be extremely high, and that hurts them. That's a difficult thing to deal with when you haven't been that successful in the playoffs before. So I think there's weight with that. And John Tortorella loves when there's weight on the team that he's playing against. We watched what he did to the Tampa Bay Lightning last year. You talked about their great success this year. I saw none of that coming for the Columbus Blue Jackets. They lost a potential MVP player in Artemi Panarin, who we talked about earlier. They lost a Vezina Trophy-winning goaltender in Sergei Bobrovsky. They lost Seth Jones to injury, and they still found ways to win games. You can never count them out. Tortorella's got a lot to do with it. Let's give the players in that lineup a lot of credit as well. They play the game with a specific style. They buy in, and they go out there and make sure they make it as difficult as they can on the opponent every night. So it's going to be a fun series. The Leafs look like a great team. Columbus looks like an average team, and it's going to make for great fodder as we watch that series go along. And I think it's going to be a 5-gamer. I think it's going to take everything Toronto has, but I do think the Leafs get by them.
And for me, it's skill versus will. It's skill versus will. They've got a better team, but like you said, their report card will be based solely on the play-in and the playoffs. If this team fails to advance, where they've been right at the cap and they've added all these big star players and locked everybody up, their report card starts when we start playing games now, not the regular season, and there will be tremendous weight on them, and Torts will use that against them. But it'll go 5. It'll be interesting. They're going to roll 4 Columbus. They're going to roll 4 lines. They're going to forecheck aggressively, and Toronto's defense is suspect. It's going to be fun to watch.
The Toronto Maple Leafs in a normal situation would have the advantage here just based on the fan base and fans in the arena. We know that is not happening, Jonesy, a unique situation with a bubble type situation for these teams to go into entering the Eastern Conference playoffs. How much is that going to affect these teams? Do you think anyone has any kind of advantage? I mean, Toronto's going to feel the buzz of the city. There's no question about that. But, I mean, how is this going to affect these teams going into this bubble situation?
I think it actually helps teams that have high expectations from their fan base. A lot of those teams, when you struggle early in a game and you're at home, your fans let you know it and you start to feel it. And when you haven't been successful before, there can be moments where you struggle with that type of pressure. I think they might gain a little bit of an advantage just based upon the mentality of trying to perform so well in front of those fans that have been so loyal and have waited so long. So I'm going to watch closely to see, but I do think there will be a benefit with that. I wonder if teams that play physically will lose something as well, because you're not going to have that great reaction when you send a bone-rattling check up against the glass and nobody's there to cheer you on. So those will be things that I think the players will have challenges with. some good, some bad, but for the most part, they're going to be missing the fans in the stands.
I think the players will adjust very quickly to no fan noise. Just remember when I was playing in the minors, we'd play in front of some real small crowds, and it didn't really bother us. After the first couple minutes, just got used to it. So teams are going to have to adjust to all of this, like how quickly they get up to tempo, no crowds, the safety protocols. It's all new for these players. The teams that adapt the quickest are going to have the most success.
How are these players going to start getting the speed of the game back after having such a lengthy time away and also playing in front of no crowds and not having that energy in the stadium to get them going?
If I were still a GM, I would have already met with my coach and said, look, we're going to play a cautious first period in our first game if we're one of the play-in teams. Pucks deep, pucks out, simple plays. We just don't want to go into the second period trailing. Just keep it. It won't be exciting hockey, but everyone have alertness in the defensive zone coverage. Let's get out of this thing tied or with the lead. If they make a mistake, we'll jump on it. But let's be very conservative the first period. Then the players will feel the game. They'll take over the game. They'll start playing the way we want to play. But I would be really nervous about having a poor first period in a best of five. So to me, it would be cautious and then put your foot on the gas.
You make a great point, Berkey, and I think coaches have never been more important than they're going to be leading up to these games and during these games, keeping players focused, bringing energy into the arena. Some of their pregame speeches are going to have to be better than ever, and a lot of their talks within the game are going to have to be really centralized and focused on exactly what's going on the ice. Players can drift at times, but once the puck is dropped, Kathryn, I go to watch a men's league game, or even when I played in some summer league games when I was playing in the NHL and would play some pickup hockey. There's something that comes out within that just brings you to another level when you're competing against the guys on the other team. And that's one of the greatest things about our sport is you want to beat the opposition. You want to beat the guy beside you. At times you want to beat him up, and sometimes you're going to get beat up. But hockey just brings out something internally that you don't necessarily need a big crowd to get you fired up for. So I think the players will find that, but I do think there's obviously going to be an adjustment period to get to that point.
Yeah, it just takes one big hit, Jonesy. You're right. Even if teams do what I said and start tentatively, one big hit will change that. Because you know how it works on a bench. Someone rattles a guy on your team and say, all right, we're playing for real, boys. Let's go get somebody. So I think the enthusiasm and the intensity is going to be there. Maybe not in the first period, but really quickly thereafter.
All right, guys, I hate to even do this because in a situation like this, it's just all up for grabs. But I'm going to put you on the spot. And Berkey, starting with you, who is the team to come out of the Eastern Conference?
Well, I've been studying this. I hate predictions. We don't know who's going to be healthy. We don't know the goaltending. It's all unknown, but we got to make a prediction. I predict the 4 teams that have buys into the play-in round that don't have to play are going to be the 4 teams standing at the end of this. Boston's been the best team in the league up to this point. I have no reason to believe they can't continue to do that. So if they're healthy, I'm taking Boston.
Great pick, Berkey. I'm actually going to pick the Pittsburgh Penguins. And so much of it has to do with the return of Jake Gensel. I think they're a team that's loaded at every position, including goaltending. I think Matt Murray, 2 cups underneath his belt, finds a way to get his game back to where it was just a season ago. And I think Crosby and Malkin rested means bad news for the rest of the league. So I don't think we can sleep on the Penguins. I think the Penguins are going to be an extremely dangerous team, and I think they find a way to get out of the Eastern Conference.
All right. Interesting. Thanks, guys, for your input throughout the show. We look forward to returning to play on August 1st and the Stanley Cup Playoffs as we are back. Thanks for joining us on this special edition of NHL Return to Play Preview.